7 o'clock.
I just went off mute, so we'll see.
There we go. I call to order this February 1st meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council. And pursuant to the policy and procedures adopted by this council relative to virtual meetings, I've determined that it's not feasible for the City Council and I to meet together physically tonight. Therefore, due to the Safer at Home order, all council members are participating virtually. Council members will vote by roll call. When a council member will be recognized, they'll raise their hand and state their vote. Would the city clerk please call the roll, please?
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Thank you. Before we go to our moment of silence, I think it's appropriate that we acknowledge the loss of another giant in our community, that being Mr. Victor Johnson. We know that Vic was an educator, a member of the school board for over 22 years. And we recall he was the last remaining member of the group of students who successfully integrated the lunch counter at the Woolworths department store. He clearly made a huge difference in our community, and we certainly extend our sincere condolences to his family. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you very much. Tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of the following items. We have a UDO text amendment. We have an item adopting the Doral Drive or Nolder Road interchange plan, an item related to a contract with the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership, an item relating to the lease of city-owned property, an item related to an interlocal agreement with Forsyth County government, the UDO text amendment, the Doral Drive or Nolder Road interchange plan, and the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership, as well as the lease for the city-owned property, are listed as public hearings. When these public hearings are called, I will invite anyone who signed up online to speak virtually. If no one wishes to speak, I'll close the public hearings and the City Council will consider the item. Pursuant to state law, written comments will be accepted on the public hearing items until 7 p.m. tomorrow, February 2nd. Written comments may be sent to the City Clerk's office at P.O. Box 2511, Winston-Salem, 27102, or by email to sandrark@cityofws.org. The written comments, if any, will be forwarded to the mayor and members of the City Council. If desired, the appropriate council member, based on the written comments, may make a motion to reconsider an item at a subsequent meeting. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed tomorrow at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, copies of our agenda, as well as videos of the meetings, are always available online at the city's website, www.cityofws.org, and just simply click on the city government menu and then click on the watch meetings online option. Can we have the first item, please?
Item H1, resolution honoring the 2020 City of Winston-Salem retired employees. Whereas there are 77 City of Winston-Salem employees who have retired in 2020. And whereas the collective years served by the retired employees totals 1,687. And whereas of all the 2020 retirees, Patricia Rhodes from the Finance Department and Larry Salmons from the Utilities Department have each served the longest with 39 years of service. And whereas the work of all city employees is valued and appreciated by the mayor, city council, and the citizens of Winston-Salem. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and Winston-Salem City Council approve honoring the aforementioned 2020 City of Winston-Salem retired employees and wish them much success as they embark on new endeavors.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Taylor, seconded by Councilmember Scipio. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Say no. And that is unanimous. Certainly, sure, I speak for the city council, and we thank these individuals for their long service to the city of Winston-Salem and to the citizens of Winston-Salem. As we're scrolling the names, you see a lot of folks we've worked with over the years, and we greatly appreciate their contributions to making our city a better place. Again, we wish these individuals, 77 of them, the best in this next chapter of their lives. Congratulations and thank you. Virtual. Maybe have item Z1, please.
Item Z1, public hearing on ordinance amending sections 52.30 and 52.31 and 11.2 of the Unified Development Ordinance pertaining to the use-specific standards and definitions of the Family Group Home A, Family Group Home B, and Family Group Home C uses, recommended by Community Development, Housing, and General Government Committee.
Before we do the public hearing, I want to ask Chris Murphy just to give us a brief summary of what this UDO text amendment is about.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Joins, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and council members. This is UDO CC9, and as was mentioned by the clerk, this is amending the use conditions and definitions for family group home use A, B, and C. Family group homes are transitional housing facilities that provide room and board, personal care, and rehabilitation services in a supporting family environment. These facilities generally include supervisory personnel that are exclusive of the resident count. However, the UDO does not clearly define what entails supervisory personnel, so that's what this text amendment is attempting to do. Just for a little bit of context, Family Group Home A allows up to 6 residents exclusive of supervisory personnel, and those Family Group Home A uses are allowed in single-family and multifamily residential districts and the low-intensity office districts. The Family Group Home B use allows up to 12 residents exclusive of the supervisory personnel, and that use is allowed in the multifamily districts and several of the commercial districts, as is Family Group Home C, which allows up to a maximum of 20 residents exclusive of supervisory personnel. This issue came to light with our definition as a result of an enforcement action that we had against a Family Group Home A use that had too many residents. And they actually are in the process of requesting a reasonable accommodation from the city through the federal fair housing policies. And when we were reviewing that with the city attorney's office, we came to the conclusion that our ordinance did not do a good job of defining what we meant by supervisory personnel. So as a result, we devised in consultation with the attorney's office, this text amendment that does change this definition for family group homes A, B, and C. And it defines supervisory personnel, and I'm going to read it, shall mean a person with any adequate licensing, such as a CNA, LPN, RN, MD, or similar or medical healthcare certification, who is employed by the transitional housing facility to provide for or supervise the needs of the residents and receives compensation for said care and supervision. In no case shall a resident of the facility undergoing treatment or receiving care be classified as supervisory personnel. Residents include, but are not limited to, handicapped persons, older adults, foster children, abused individuals, homeless persons, and those recovering from drug or alcohol abuse. So in conclusion, this text amendment only expands the definition for family group home A, B, and C uses to clarify and explain what is meant by supervisory personnel. As was mentioned previously, this received unanimous recommendation from the Community Development, Housing, and General Government Committee at its meeting on January 12th. And prior to that, back in December, it had unanimous recommendation by the Planning Board. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Are there any questions by council members of Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Adams, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, beg your pardon.
Mr. Murphy, how is this going to be communicated to the owners and proprietors of the different group homes throughout the county?
We have not considered that. This is essentially, what we have found is in this particular instance was that the way they were looking at the youth supervisory personnel did not match what the intent was. We haven't actually discussed coming up with a method whereby that we contact all those folks, although we do have the contact information for the active family group homes in a database with their contact information. So we can communicate that information back out to them if that's what council desires.
Well, I think we need to do that because, as you said, we just know of one instance, and it would be great on our part if we made sure, just like anything else that we do, that our constituents and citizens know there's been a change in the ordinance. So, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I would hope that we would be doing that.
Good suggestion, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the public hearing. This is a public hearing. I don't believe anyone has signed up to be heard on this, so therefore I will close the public hearing. And this did come out of your committee, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, so if you're ready, I would certainly entertain a motion from you.
Thank you, Mayor. I move for 1, approval of the statement of consistency for approval of this item, and 2, approval of UDO CC 9.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Larson seconds the motion, I believe. Any further discussion? If not, we'll go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yay.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
And Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Go to item Z2.
Item Z2, public hearing on resolution adopting the proposed Doral Drive, Winona Road interchange plan, recommended by Community Development, Housing, and General Government Committee.
Again, this is a public hearing, but before we go to the public hearing, I'm going to ask Marco Andrade to give us a brief summary of this area plan. Marco?
Yes, good evening, Mayor Jones, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and council members. I'm going to briefly give you an overview of what we did next. As you recall, we have done already one interchange plan at US 158. This is the second one, and later this year we'll be doing the third one, which will be at New Walkertown Road. Next. The interchange plan, the intent of them is to involve the community to develop a long-term vision for the interchange area. We had a kickoff meeting about a year ago, and we had 2 virtual meetings with the community. And so the recommendations presented today come from that. And the intent of the interchange plans is to provide design guidance. We're not changing the land use. We're just providing design guidance for the interchange areas. And sometimes we may recommend some infrastructure improvements, sidewalks and bikeways, things like that. Next. So looking at the boundaries for the Doral Drive and the Ronaldo Road, we have a few properties along those 2 interchanges. And you can see in brown the city limits, but most of the area on both interchanges are located in the unincorporated Forsyth County. Next. As I say, we're not changing the proposed land use recommendations from area plans. We're keeping those, and so we're just working what has been proposed for the Doral Drive. Yellow is single family, and a little bit of brown, which is multifamily. And for Ronaldo Road, Again, single family, multifamily, and there is a parcel with the industrial zoning. Next. So we had the kickoff meeting, and this is the input we got from the community in terms of the new single family residential. Basically, they wanted to reflect the existing patterns in the area, keeping the lot sizes, which is about RS20, the roads, interconnected streets, preserving some wooded areas, and really have some bike facilities and connections, particularly related to the mountains to sea trail. Next. So what we did was looking at what the community wanted, as well as the environmental features, the steep slopes and the creeks and all of that. We came out with an illustration showing a potential single-family development at this interchange. So there are two sections, and they're connected through the middle with open space and a trail, the Mountains to Sea Trail, and a connection to Long Creek Park. It was well received. We only had two main issues at this particular interchange, and one was related to the noise walls, which you know NCDOT will be taking care of that at a later time. But there was also, you can see on the top of the map, a potential road connection to a development that has been approved, but it hasn't been built, Long Creek Village Phase 2, which is townhouses. And so the community really wanted to have a second access to that development and access to the interchange. So we took a look at that, and really the existing topography, crossing the creek, is really not feasible to have this connection. It will be just very expensive. Next. And then in terms of the Reynolda Road, we look at three different areas: multifamily, single family, and the industrial. Next. And we did, again, follow what we heard from the residents. They wanted to see a mixture of apartments related to the multifamily residential. Mixture of apartments, townhouses, maybe some cluster homes, a lot of green space, hopefully no more than 2 stories. And so again, what we tried to do was next, look at what the community wanted and the actual environmental features of the site, and came up with an illustration showing townhouses, apartments, 2-3 story, open space, connections, street and pedestrian connections. And so that's what this is showing. Also to the north, it's an extension of an existing single-family residential. It's just some single-family lots shown on that side. Next. And then for the last one, this industrial area, it's where 66 Motors used to be. It is for sale. And next, really the community had big hopes for this particular area to have something, non-residential uses, something medical related or educational, or even office and professional park. So we took a closer look at that next. And unfortunately, this area is located in the future growth area, which doesn't have sewer. And there are no plans to extend sewer. And so we really didn't, as much as we wanted, we didn't do a design vision for this area because it is premature. We need to have a more comprehensive look at the area with the extension of the sewer lines. Next. And so we had a public hearing before the planning board in November. The planning board recommended adoption of the plan. And then we presented the plan to the Community Development, Housing, General Government Committee. They recommended adoption of the plan without any comment or discussion. Next. And so once this is approved by the board, we will go to the Board of County Commissioners. So with that, I gave you an overview, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Andrade. Any questions of Mr. Andrade by council members?
I do, Mayor.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Councilmember Larson, I think, had his hand up first.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem. You have seniority. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering, so far as the citizens, the residents that wanted or thought that there needed to be a connectivity with the road, how did they feel about that when you told them that it was too expensive? Did you give them any recourse of how to engage with their legislative representatives and federal representatives?
I think, they understood from the beginning that it was going to be difficult, but they wanted us to take a second look. But I think this is a much larger issue. It's not just here. As development continues to happen in our community, we're having more and more. We don't ask the developers to cross creeks. And so we're having these issues repeated all over, and people have to go around and use the existing roads because there is not an easy connection. So what the plan is saying, this is an issue. It needs to be looked at. Maybe there are options, maybe a bond referendum, maybe some other type of things that could be done to really look at the future as the community again continues to develop, to have not all quick connections, but at least the main ones.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll just add real quickly on what Marco said. He's 100% right. We're seeing this issue all over in all wards, all across the city, these creek crossings, and it's starting to kind of have a cumulative effect on our connectivity within the city. It is something that bears some probably additional review and some creative thought somewhere down the road, because it's coming up more frequently now, and it's starting to impact the overall road network.
Thank you, Mr. King. Go ahead.
Mr. King, in the future, I guess, would it be helpful if you help the council to understand when we talk about creek crossings and other issues, like what are the environmental concerns to the community and the water areas and that sort of thing. Maybe later, or bring a report to community development, because if people are asking for this, I think the council needs to be aware of what could be the impact, not just to the roads and connectivity, but what could be the impact on the environment. Thank you.
We'd be glad to.
That's a good point, Mayor Pro Tem. We've got a strategic planning session coming up in a couple of months with the council, so that might be something we can spend a little bit of time talking about there, Aaron. Councilman Larson, you had a question or a comment?
Yes. Two really points. One point of clarity. This plan reflects unified ownership and development, which does not exist currently. Is that correct? That we have multiple owners on all these parcels?
That is correct.
So it's a plan, but not necessarily as it unfolds, it's going to depend on who owns the property, really.
That is correct.
The other question really follows up on Mayor Pro Tem's question, and that is exit and multiple entrances and exits. And going back to your site plan on Rinaldo Road, it looked like you have a single point of entrance into that development without a second entrance or egress. Is that possible? Is that way that shows up? You show the possible ability of putting a bridge across on the backside, which it does not seem feasible at this time, but otherwise we're only showing a single entrance onto Rinaldo Road. Is that the way it's been drawn up?
You mean for the multifamily, sir? Yeah, the multifamily access on Rinaldo Road is going to be very difficult. It is very close to the interchange, and there are some negative. So we are showing two access on Transu Road because that seems more feasible.
Okay. Well, I think it is. I think one of the concerns that we heard was that, for emergency vehicles and egress and emergency exits, that, we need those multiple entrance and exit points. And if the bridge becomes more and more important at that point, I think it's worthy of us looking at as council.
Yes.
Councilor McIntosh?
Yeah, one thing, talking about the connectivity, one thing we got to keep in mind is who bears the burden of that cost. Developers just going to pass it on to their buyers, and I'm going to harp on affordability again. So we need to be thinking about what's the best way to fund that, because we can't just put it on home buyers' backs. So it's a great conversation to have. I look forward to delving into that.
Good point, Ms. McIntosh. Councilmember Clark?
Yeah, just briefly. Adding to what Jeff just said, it would be good for us to have a feel for what a bridge costs, and I know each one's different, but just maybe take a few examples. It's been a while since I bought one, so I have no idea what we're talking.
Thank you, Clark. All right, this is a public hearing. I don't believe anyone has signed up to be heard on this proposed site or area plan. So therefore, I'll close the public hearing. Mayor Pro Tem Adams, this again came out of your committee. If I could ask you for a motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move for approval of item Z2.
Second, McIntosh.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilmember McIntosh. Any further discussion? Now we'll go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
And Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Go to item Z3.
Item Z3, public hearing on resolution awarding a contract with the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership to provide services within the Downtown Winston-Salem Business Improvement District, recommended by Finance Committee.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. Before we go into the public hearing, I asked our staff, Steve Howard, to give us a brief summary of what this action is about. Steve?
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of the City Council. The item for consideration is a resolution awarding a contract to the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership to provide services within the Downtown Business Improvement District. Prior to entering into a contract for these services, a public hearing is required. The Downtown Winston-Salem Business Improvement District is a defined area of downtown where property owners pay an additional 9 cents of property tax per $100 of valuation. Revenue generated by this tax is required to be spent on enhanced services within the boundaries of the district. Leading up to this contract award, a public input session was held virtually via Zoom on November 5th. An RFP was issued in November and bids were due in early December. The city received 2 proposals and a team of city staff from various departments scored the proposals. The proposal from the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership received a score of 500 out of a total of 500 points. City staff are recommending a contract period of 5 years, which is the maximum allowed by law. I'm happy to answer any questions about this item or the Downtown Business Improvement District in general. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Hike? Councilmember Mundy?
Is this a new endeavor, or is this a continuation of something that has been going on in the past?
Councilmember Mundy, this is a continuation. The Downtown Business Improvement District was first approved by council in November of 2013 and went into effect the following fiscal year. And so it's about 6 or 7 years old now.
And has the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership been providing these services up to this time?
Yes, they've had the contract since inception.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. I understand there's no one who has signed up to be heard on the public hearing. Therefore, I'll close the public hearing. And this did come out of Finance. Councilmember Clark, if you're ready for a motion, I would entertain.
Thank you, Mayor. I move for approval of item Z3.
Second, McIntosh.
Seconded by Councilmember McIntosh. Any further discussion? Thank you. Go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
And Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item Z4.
Item Z4, public hearing on resolution authorizing the execution of a lease of city-owned property to WS-LLC and its affiliates, and an amendment to the companion amended and restated incentive agreements. Northwest Ward, recommended by the Finance Committee.
Councilmember, we've talked about this for a good while. I think that might be well if we, before we had the public hearing, ask Mr. Rao to give us just a brief summary of the action that's before the council tonight and the reasons behind it. Mr. Rao?
Thank you, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tempore Adams, and members of the City Council. Last year was a difficult year for minor league baseball in the Winston-Salem Dash. The coronavirus pandemic resulted in the cancellation of the 2020 season, and the future of minor league baseball became unclear due to the contraction by Major League Baseball, which reduced the number of affiliated minor league teams from 160 to 120. To bolster the Dash's chances of being retained as one of the remaining teams, city officials have proposed restructuring the current lease agreement for Truist Stadium into a new 25-year lease that would run through 2045. Highlights of the agreement are as follows: reduce the lease payments from $1.5 million to $750,000 with annual increases of 1.99%. Amend the amended and restated incentives agreement approved in 2014 to eliminate the ticket surcharge of $175,000. Under that amendment, the team would continue to make the payment in lieu of taxes that was established under the agreement. And then the lease payment and the pilot would both be due on June 1st. The new agreement would consolidate the two current lease agreements if that's deemed to be possible. All other provisions would remain the same. The new agreement would require a city contribution ranging from $178,000 to $633,000 until the debt is paid off. But these contributions can be funded from the debt service fund without any impact on general fund operations. If this new agreement was not in place, if the team were to default, the city would have to cover the full annual debt payment, which would range between $1.4 million and $1.6 million. So the attached resolution under consideration tonight authorizes a new 25-year lease, as described earlier, and amendments to the incentives agreement to eliminate the ticket surcharge and change the due date of the pilot to coincide with the due date of the lease payment. And because of the amendment to the incentives agreement, a public hearing is required.
Mr. Rowell, just want to make sure that the citizens know that even though we'll go red for a period of years, because after the financing ends, there's still payments at the end of the lease that we'll catch up and the actual city will be whole on their investment.
That's correct, Mayor Joins. The team continue to make payments beyond when the debt is paid off, and that would make us whole.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Rowell? Great. Thank you. And this is a public hearing, and I understand that no one has signed up to be heard on the public hearing, so therefore I'll close the public hearing. Again, this did come out of finance again, Mr. Clark, so I would recognize you for a motion if you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. I move for approval of item Z4.
Second, Scipio.
Councilmember Scipio seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Thank you. We'll go to the roll call. Oh, excuse me. Mayor Pro Tem Adams had a.
Yes, I just hope the public heard what Mr. Rao was saying, that out of the 160 teams in the major leagues now, or minor leagues, there is only 120. And that means 40 teams no longer exist in small towns and cities that have ballparks just like we do. As we move past and hopefully through this pandemic, one of the things that sustained the American public after World War II was baseball. And I am hoping that because we still are able to have a team, that when people look to relocate or businesses or whatever, because they look for those quality of life type venues and activities, that Winston-Salem will be one of the cities that they look at, because we were fortunate enough to retain our team as well as the stadium.
Good point, Mayor Pro Tem Adams. And actually, I just found out it actually got a little worse than that. They've actually cut it to 118 teams. So it's actually 42 teams have lost their, cities have lost their things. Councilmember Larson wanted to be heard.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. I think it's worth noting that this is an architectural icon in the city of Winston-Salem. You're driving down Salem Parkway, and it's one of the first things you see. It would be a shame if it went dark. But more importantly, I think the Dash have been an excellent corporate partner within the city and have contributed in a variety of ways outside of the ballpark itself as being good corporate citizens, and I'm glad they're going to stick with us.
Thank you, Councilmember Larson. All right, we do have a motion and a second to approve this new lease arrangement. We'll go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy?
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntosh,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That is unanimous. We'll now go to item Z5.
Item C5, resolution ratifying and authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement between Forsyth County and the City of Winston-Salem for use of the education building and surrounding property located at the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds, located in the North Ward.
Thank you. Mr. Rao, would you give us just a brief summary of this item, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So several weeks ago, Forsyth County management and public health officials approached city management about using the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds education building and the surrounding properties for a COVID-19 vaccination site. The county health department already uses the Fairgrounds livestock barn for a drive-through testing site. So the city and county management have drafted an interlocal agreement in which the city would provide rental of those facilities at no cost, and the city would reimburse the county would reimburse the city for actual expenses incurred at a total amount not to exceed $200,000. The agreement runs from January 18th, 2021 through May 31st, 2021, with an option to renew month to month. So the attached resolution before you tonight ratifies and authorizes the execution of the interlocal agreement between the county and the city. The Forsyth County Board of Commissioners approved a similar resolution on January 21st.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Any questions of Mr. Rao? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second, Scipio.
Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Clark, seconded by Councilmember Scipio. Any further discussion? If not, we'll go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yay.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
And Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That is unanimous. Councilmember Clark asked that we have a presentation tonight on leaf collections. And Councilmember Clark, do you want to say anything before we ask Mr. Taylor to give us an update?
Yes, just that I think this year has been particularly difficult, primarily due to the COVID situation, but I wanted to management to give a thorough understanding to everybody, particularly our citizens. I'm getting inundated with calls, and I want to be sure everybody understands the situation we're working under. So I appreciate the presentation tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, if you would illuminate us on the situation with leaves.
Good evening, Mayor Jones, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, other members of the council. I'm going to ask Ms. Taisha Hinton, Sanitation Director, to provide a brief presentation of the program and our progress.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Jones, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of City Council. I know I am between you and your adjournments. I will do my best to give you the information that you're requesting quickly. I am Taisha Hinton, the Director of the Sanitation Division. And here are, Meredith, could you go to the next slide for me? The text is, I can't quite see the presentation.
It's a little blurry for us too. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So as you all are aware, the Sanitation Division is responsible.
Oh, we missed her.
Somebody froze.
Good evening.
Tag team.
Take it over, Johnny. It's all yours.
Okay. So as you all are aware, we go through the city 3 times through all of the quadrants, and it kind of rotates yearly. So we would start in one year, 2 the next, 3, 4, and so on. This year, dealing with some shortages in our resources, as well as some storms and some other issues have caused some delays. It's been a bit of a challenge, but we continue to press on, and we have gone through Quad 3. I believe this is the second time now. Taisha, are you back?
I apologize, but yes, I'm back.
All right, well, I'm gonna tag your hand again.
Okay.
And for Ms. Hinton.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so this map shows you in the green, Quad 3 is where we currently are. We began collecting leaves in Quad 3 on January 23rd. This is the second of 3 total passes. So we do 3 passes and we're on pass 2. The next quad is highlighted there in pink, which is Quad 4. That's where crews will be headed to next. As of today, crews are working in the Hope Valley, Gordon Manor, Robin Hood Road, and Allerstar Road areas. Next slide, please. I did want to take a moment to talk about how the quad system works specifically for leaf collection. So each year, crews rotate the quad in which leaf collection begins. For example, in 2019, we started in Quad 1. In 2020, we started in Quad 2. This 2021 in November, we'll start in Quad 3. And in 2022, we'll start in Quad 4. That's just for fairness to make sure that we're not starting in the same place every year. Each household collection, like I talked about earlier, is a total of 3 collections. The collection dates that we do provide on our website through our service finder are, are an estimate. It could change due to weather conditions. Janita, could you jump in for me? I apologize.
Homeschool.
Okay, I'm going to go on because I know you all are approaching that time. Okay, so as already been said, could you back up that slide, Meredith, one more time? Okay, thank you. So as Taisha's already said, we go through those particular quads as a matter of fairness. One of the calls I used to get all the time is, we haven't seen the truck but once or twice, and they missed us, and are they going to get us? The answer is, we're going to come 3 times. We will come back. If you have not seen us, we're there, and we plan to come back and get those leaves. The good thing about round 2 is pretty much when we get through round 2, you will find that the majority of the leaves have been lifted. And so round 3 is very quick. So collection dates. This is important because we have our website portal. And one of the words that sometimes is overlooked is that word estimate or estimated. So it is just an estimate of when we will be in that particular quad. I wish we were good enough to say, you punch your address in and we'll be there on that exact date, but that is very difficult to accomplish considering the wind, the rain, and all of the above. So we do our best to update the portal regularly. So you may go on today and see a date. If you go back 2 days later, you may see that that date was pushed out. So that explains how that particular system works. We are continuing to work on trying to improve our ability to communicate when we're going to be in the area for our residents. Okay, Meredith? Here's where you can really help us out. And this leads to some other issues that we experience with leaf collection. Make sure that the leaves are free from sticks, rocks, and debris. So you may say, why? We have the equipment that we use is very sensitive to foreign objects. And when we destroy those impellers, we have to pull that particular unit out of service, have it repaired, bring it back into service. This actually hurts everybody because it delays our ability to get to your particular area. Do not place leaves in bags or tarps, and refrain from combining leaves and brush. This is one of the big challenges that we face. And I know you'll see in your area, folks will call in and say, we have a leaf pile that's not being collected. And there are limbs on top of the leaf piles. And so what we have to do, we have to have our brush crews come through and get the brush before we can deal with the leaves. But once again, we will be back, and a door hanger should be left at a location when there is an issue for non-collection. Okay, Meredith. Leaf season comparison, my fiscal year, and I'm speeding up. When we look at 18-19, we had 62 work days. 19-20, we had 84. 20-21, which 20 through 21, where we're at today, we've only had 59 work days. But if you look at the tonnages are actually pretty much the same. We have an anomaly in 19-20, but 18-19 and 20-21 are pretty much the same. So we will have the tonnage per workday calculations done at the end of leaf season. Okay. All right. Nobody may have asked this question, but I'm gonna ask it and answer it. When it comes to brush, sometimes there's confusion. Brush moves at a much faster pace when we're outside of leaf season because we have all of our vehicles operating on the actual brush crews. Some of the brush crews are broken down during leaf collection to actually provide assistance in that particular program. So brush still has crews working during leaf collection, but they're smaller crews, and it slows down the time that it takes to get around. But brush collection is a year-round service. Okay, quad 3, we began brush collection on January 28th, so we're in the same quad as we are for leaf collection. As of February 1, crews are collecting in the Robin Hood Road, Buena Vista, and Forest Drive areas. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, the tonnage for 18-19 highlighted in yellow, 19 in blue, and 2021 in green. So as was already mentioned, that particular year, 18-19, we see tonnage spikes in February. All of these things depended upon what's been placed out, whether we've had storms, whether we've been impacted in any way. So this is just to give you some idea of our tonnage trends. Okay, I mentioned this earlier, the service finder. You can go to cityofws.org, and all of the guidelines are there for collection, including your estimated collection dates. If you have any questions, you can also call CityLink at 336-727-8000. Okay, thank you for dealing with this a little bit longer than I intended presentation. But if you have any questions, I have staff here that may be able to answer anything that I can't get right now off the top of my head.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Councilmember Scipio had a question, I believe.
Sure.
Mr. Taylor, I think your department does a great job. I know we've had lots of delays. However, what is your estimated standard for brush collection? If it's year-round, how long should residents expect their limbs to be out in the yard? Because I have had in my yard since November and my neighbor since November. And I've seen it in other places in East Winston that they've been out there for months and months and months. You know, I'm almost at the point I'm gonna have to go pick up some of that and use it as firewood because it seems to get seasoned.
Yes, ma'am. It is actually a longer time period simply because there are fewer resources. So I think when we say the normal frequency, the department will work on providing residents with an expected frequency for those time periods where we have minimized crews in the field. And I think that might help them understand. Also, typically, unless there is a storm, there's a lot more brush being placed out in the spring of the year. So this year has just been a little bit more difficult. We're going to work on providing residents with more information as what their expectations should be when our crew size is minimized, as it is in leaf season.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark and then Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah. Mr. Taylor, could you comment on bulky item pickup, and do you anticipate it this year? And if so, what months will that take place?
Yes, sir. We are planning to move forward with bulky item collection. It returns, and that particular time period will be as it was before. That would begin in March. Bulky item will move forward. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Taylor.
I just want to take a moment and make a comment. I just want to thank all of the citizens for their patience when it comes to the various collections. As you've seen, we're trying our best to deliver our services, but because of COVID-19, we've had to work through some challenges. I will say to Ms. Hinton, thank you for your half of the presentation. What we saw today was truly what we mean when we say one team. I am currently in the house with a dog and 3 kids, and anything can happen when you're navigating parenthood. So we thank you for the presentation. We look forward to the good work you'll continue to do for our citizens.
Thank you, Councilmember Taylor. I really appreciate that.
Councilmember Larson.
Mr. Taylor, I'm already getting some calls about leaf mulch. Are you able to talk about leaf mulch at this point? People are thinking about gardens.
Well, I would say to you, the utilities department will kind of manage that process. They can reach out to CityLink and ask for someone in that department. And there are 2 individuals there that I know of that can give them some details on when or if the leaf giveaway is going to take place this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor and Ms. Hinton. Thank you for your presentation. I'm sure it's very helpful. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have on our agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed, say no. That is unanimous. We are adjourned, folks. Thank you.